my relationship with the work I do, the policy work that I care about, all that stuff is still the same. I still care about all those values. But what has changed is my relationship with alcohol.
Hi, and welcome back to The Sober Spill. My name is Isabel, and today we are talking to State Representative and Mountainside alum, Robin Comey. All right, so today I'm here with Robin, and she's going to share a little bit about her story, her time in sobriety, and also just what brought her to where she's at today. So for the people that don't know you, who are you?
Thanks, Isabel. Thanks for inviting me on the podcast.
Thanks for coming.
The Sober Spill. My name is Robin Comey, and I am a graduate of Mountainside. I came here 2 years ago next week. So I am almost, knock on wood, going to be celebrating my 2-year sobriety date. I came here due to, I had a terrible car accident. I am a state representative, and that was not something that, I could fly under the radar on. And I had some incredible friends and colleagues that said, we love you, we support you, we want you to get help. And for the first time, and, I'm in my mid-50s, and for the first time, probably my whole life, I said, yeah, I do need help, And so I had a great team that showed me, my options out here, and I chose Mountainside. And it's been a wonderful journey through this post, being sober, and this post traumatic experience by having a public-facing experience with alcoholism and with recovery.
Totally. And that's where we get into how addiction doesn't really discriminate. It doesn't matter if you are a public-facing person, if you're working in government, if you're an athlete, everybody deals with this at a certain point. But when did, over the course of your life, because you mentioned that you're in your 50s now, and this is when you ended up seeking treatment, you ended up getting sober, but most of the time we start drinking way earlier than that. So when did it shift into something that was more than just a social thing and it became more habitual?
Yeah, well, my story is really circles around, my family, of course. My mother was an alcoholic, and she was also schizophrenic. So I had, interpersonal issues with her and conflicts with her, and I would always sort of run to, sort of let off some steam after having to cope with, the difficult relationships that we had. She spent a lot of time in hospitals. I became in all ways really her mother for
very parentified.
Oh, very much at an early age, about 10, 11 years old.
And that makes a lifelong impact.
Yeah. So, and you wonder why I'm in the business of caring for people, still now today. But it was always something that when I wanted to relax and de-stress, I would, go to, a drink or, do drugs or, smoke pot or something.
And that makes perfect sense. You also shared being more of a perfectionist and a type A person. A lot of times when we hold ourselves to such a rigid standard, we have to force ourselves to let out steam in some capacity. And that's how the drinking starts to play in. And it seems helpful until it's whoa, what am I doing now? But how did you end up getting into the field that you're in? What spurred that interest for you?
It's a crazy story. I do have my father and my stepmother were all very supportive growing up and helped me, navigate all of these really, difficult times when I was younger. But they were all social workers. My whole family were social workers.
Wow.
So they all thought I should be a social worker or a teacher. And I said, oh, no. I want to make money,
Tell them.
And didn't really turn out that way because, I had a different path. And so I go into school for corporate communications and got out of school, started a business with I had just met my husband, started a business with him. And then as I had kids into my, late 30s and 40s, I got involved with some local initiatives and we did a lot of community building, and I started to get really involved in my community. And at one point in 2016, I ran for local office and was there for about 2 years. And then the state representative seat opened up. And everybody was looking around, who's going to run? And I said, I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring, no matter how nervous I was. And so that was successful, and that was back in 2019. So I did sort of land here as a state representative in a backwards fashion.
That makes it almost more intentional, though. Like you finding a passion in this a little bit later on, like not necessarily pursuing this as a career, but then finding out this is your niche. But working in politics, it seems, at least on the outside and how it's portrayed on TV, which this might be it dramatized, incredibly like calamitous. Like it seems very stressful. Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Politics is stressful. And I will say that I got into office in 2019, and then we had the pandemic in 2020.
Yes.
And in 2020, people needed us more so than any other time. They didn't understand what the state did until I was able to help them navigate our unemployment, Department of Labor, unemployment, utility, housing, all of those things. So while we weren't actually in session passing laws, our time became very structured around, consumed, I should say, with helping people navigate how they get their basic needs met. And so that was in 2020. And that is, I think, that was when I think a lot of us, started hunkering down, and liquor sales went up, and we all, stayed in our house or stayed in the office and didn't quite know what to do with our time. And as we know, alcohol is addictive. And if you have those addictive tendencies, and certainly if it's in your family and in your genetics, then I certainly was headed down that path, even though I was still productive, and so. And then I got into a car and had a car accident, got into my car while driving and had a car accident. So that sort of put a halt on everything.
Yeah, it's hard to, especially because you mentioned that you were really in denial before coming and like seeking treatment. When you're so in denial, sometimes it takes a big public situation you can't ignore it. Like you can't push it under the rug anymore because now it's in your face and you can't like look in the mirror without seeing it.
Yeah, it was really tough. I mean, it was tough. People, on the internet.
Never nice.
And I received letters at the office. And then I also had a lot of loving, supportive people that I could not have gotten through those early days without their support.
Yeah, that's a lot to go through by yourself. And I think it also, to a certain extent, the internet is a mean, terrible place a lot of the time, but to certain people, it also humanizes you and it makes you more relatable, because who doesn't, at least at this point, know someone else who's gone through something like that? But with what you mentioned, like being in a position and being used to being in a caretaker position, I'm sure that made it even harder to go away, because there's always that like, oh, but like they need me, or especially like with your kids, like I imagine that would make it harder to take a step back and focus on you.
I was ready.
Okay.
Yeah, I do say that I walked in, things had been so stressful, as, we were talking about. Things had been so stressful, and the environment that I was in, and the blowback from it was so tremendous that I was ready to hand over my phone, ready to just try to be an anonymous person here. But it turns out you guys have TVs too.
Yeah. Tough. Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to escape that. And when you came to Mountainside, I would love if you would tell the newspaper story because I think I think it's such a good story.
Okay.
But
So, I showed up pretty torn up and you know, pretty ashamed and being feeling very scorned. And when I don't know if I even, during the intake, I don't know if I actually, I was probably trying to be lighthearted about the intake, but was not feeling great. And that's just how I deal with stress, is to be lighthearted. And when I walked into, I was like, here's my phone, take it. I'm ready to be invisible. And then I walked into the detox unit, and on the table were 2 newspapers or 3 newspapers, and I was on the front page above the fold on all 3. And I just looked at the intake person, and I said, "That's me." And he was just like, "Okay." And he just took them away. And it's the beginning of, a great experience here at Mountainside. Honestly, everything, it took me a few weeks to realize that I was the problem, that my behavior was the problem, and that if I didn't get help, it would not get any better. I wasn't going to be able to control my drinking any longer. And it was a great experience here. I thank you.
yeah, and it's happy you came. It was lovely to meet you. But yeah, and it's coming to this point where you know that nothing's going to get better if you don't turn your will over and relinquish control. Having that happen early on is so helpful because there's so many times that people will try to navigate this by themselves. They recognize that there might be an issue and they're like, but I'm smarter than it and I'm going to figure it out. And that's a super, super common thing. So it's pretty, and that's why we also talk about people who come through and they get it on their first try as one-chip wonders, because it's rare to do that. And you've been able to sustain almost 2 years at this point, so that's pretty impressive.
I would say that, I was looking around at the other folks here, the other patients or clients, whatever, however you refer to us. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not as bad as that person. And then all of a sudden, because I didn't drink during the day or didn't drink, I never woke up in the middle of the night and drank or something like that. I didn't lose my job. I didn't, things hadn't gotten to what I felt was what an alcoholic, as we think an alcoholic, a full-fledged alcoholic might be, which is someone who is, on the street with a paper bag and throwing their life away and getting fired and not being able to hold down a job and all sorts of things like that. So, I had these expectations that I didn't feel like I fell into. And then I was in, with a therapist one day, and I said, well, I'm not as bad as everyone else. And he said, gave me a little tough love and looked at me side-eyed and said, not yet.
Classic.
And I went, oh. And that was my aha moment. And I was like, oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah, and we also always talk about pain is relative, right? Or also it's the feelings that it brings you to. And I always say that to clients when they're here, where they're like, I don't belong here. I'm like, no one comes to rehab by accident. You didn't just come here because everything was going super well and you're having a great time. Some part of you at least knew that you needed help and you needed to seek help. And so let's honor that part. But what did you find helpful about Mountainside specifically? Because I know we have a wide array of things that we do here, but what resonated with you the most?
I was introduced to all the different types of 12-step type programs, but also I loved the yoga. Went camping in the middle of, well, I guess it was like April. It was freezing cold out. Just having that holistic approach, I think, to recovery and really making it about how you can make yourself feel better, body, mind, and soul.
Yeah, there's so much validity to that. I was doing a training today and I learned that it's been studied numerous times. Yoga is actually more effective for the treatment of PTSD than any like psychopharmacological drug. It's been proven like over and over again. So stuff like that is super interesting, and it's good to have, because alcoholism and addiction, it's not a one size fit all thing. So we can't use like a one size fits all approach. Like what works for you might not work for me and vice versa. And what worked for you when you got out of here? Like, what did you carry with you?
That's a great question, because when I left Mountainside, went home, right? My family wasn't quite sure what to make of me, and they were being very, tippy-toeing around me, and I worked with the AWARE program.
I used to work for Aware. I'm very familiar with their program.
Fantastic. I was matched with two or three, I should say, wonderful, peer counselors or
certified peer recovery specialists.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were fantastic, and I got to see them. They got to give me, I got to see them twice a week. Each one for an hour. I got into therapy. I had not been in therapy in forever. My family had family systems therapy.
That's awesome.
Then, in fact, this morning, we're still doing our couples counseling, my husband and I. So a lot of this stuff continues to carry over into my, 2 years later into my work. Into my life.
Totally. It's not a one quick fix thing. Like, this is a lifetime thing. And therapy, I'm so glad that you're doing, especially with couples therapy and family therapy, because it can be so easy for the alcoholic to go home and everyone be like, well, that's it, case closed, but it's never that simple. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been really, it's been productive, I think. And that AWARE, having that, they drug tested you, alcohol tested you, whatever, every week, basically. And not that I have no desire to, ever drink again, but just having that accountability was reassuring, and having that team that was looking out for you and giving you guidance and just being friendly with you was so important. I had struggles. I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have a car. All of that was also, an extra stress on me, still trying to have to, figure out ways to get to work, to and from work, and to get, all my get to the grocery store and all of those things. So I was glad to be able to have as much support as was possible around me during those early months.
Yeah, more is better in those instances. Like, I know a lot of times when people are in treatment, they're like, I don't know, that's a lot. Like, I just did the full 30 days, but it's like going from something as structured as a residential treatment program back to nothing. That's so jarring. So yeah, definitely having something comprehensive like that was helpful. And when did you go back to work? Like, how soon after getting out did you go back to work?
Right away.
Yeah.
Within a week. Yeah. As soon as I got my ride situation figured out day to day. And
yeah. And how was that going back to there?
It's all hard, right? All of this is hard work. My colleagues were great. I had folks from both sides of the aisle come up to me and show their support. Sometimes people would tell me their personal experiences. So I got to learn a little bit more about some of my colleagues. And then everybody was patient. And, to this day, it still comes up every time, someone is pulled over, in a DUI, it gets rehashed. Oh, the one thing I do want to say is that 7 months after I got out, I said, I may have anxiety.
It's so funny when it's such a surprise to people. It's like, wait a minute, this isn't normal. I had a friend do that just recently, and I was like, yeah, of course.
I had no idea. I was like, everybody lives with this.
Mhm.
No. So I went on medication, small dose of anti-anxiety medications, and it's just taken the edge off, and it's also allowed me to put things in perspective. Yeah. Being able to realize that, I am being able to live with who I am and my role in this life.
Yeah, it gives you some separation from like the immediate panic. And that leads me into my next question, because thinking about your job gives me immediate panic. Like when I read the news, and it's very easy for me to spiral into like this nihilistic headspace. So how do you keep instilling hope both in yourself and like in your job? Like how do you stay afloat in that?
I enjoy helping people. I enjoy connecting the dots for people as to how important government is to people's day-to-day lives, even though they may not see that. And so I still love to help people. I still like to write policies that hopefully will make people's lives better. And that hasn't changed, right? My relationship with my constituents, my relationship with the work I do, the policy work that I care about, all that stuff is still the same. I still care about all those values. But what has changed is my relationship with alcohol.
Totally.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's as simple and as basic as it gets. So I'm happy now, and it's easy to be enthusiastic about the work you do when you love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels less like an arduous chore. I feel like excited about it. And it's also cool being at that level because it's making actionable change where it's applying something that might make things incrementally better. It might help out in these certain ways. Even if people aren't aware of that, like you're still just bettering the quality of life for people. Yeah, that's awesome. And what are you working on now? Like, how does your background personally in mental health and addiction kind of influence what you're doing now professionally?
Yes. So I've always had an interest in it just because I saw the turmoil it had brought to, people's lives. I tend to be interested in those issues. But I think now I met so many different people in here. I saw firsthand how the law that we passed, paid family medical leave here in the state of Connecticut, helped people during their worst times, during coming to Mountainside, trying to get help, getting help for their addiction, and how our policies helped people directly. And that seeing our policies in action is something that I can never take for granted. And so I continue to make sure I sit on human services now. I'm vice chair of human services. And, these are the folks who are on Medicare and Medicaid and are, they are our most vulnerable people in the state of Connecticut.
Yeah.
And so everything that I can do to make sure that they have the resources that I so fortunately had to be able to come here because I had good health insurance. I mean, it's a blessing in and of itself. If this had happened, 10 years ago, I would not have been at Mountainside because we didn't,
Yeah.
Yeah, insurance wouldn't have paid for it, or
Yeah, being able to understand like the resources that supported you and being able to protect those for other people, because it's true. It's like, once again, if we're looking at how addiction doesn't discriminate, everyone needs good addiction care and it's not accessible all the time. So Yeah, that's definitely fighting the good fight. And we see it too, like as like a constituent or a citizen of the state of Connecticut, like we see Connecticut like making an effort and like fighting for us. And it's,
Yeah.
at least I can speak for myself. I am very appreciative, and it gives me some security in my panic, my news-induced panic, my frenzy that I spin into easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now we are, I think we are yet to feel some of the pain that may come down the line for some of the change in policies that that may or may not happen. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not writing the book.
Yeah, no, I'm tracking the bills online. I'm like refreshing. I'm like, did it pass? Is in the house? Yeah. I'm like all over
You're
it.
better than I am. I assume you're talking about the national level.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just like, I gotta know. I have to know. But it's like the burden of knowledge also is like, whoa.
Yeah.
But what are some places we can find you? Like if we wanted to be supportive of you or also just see the stuff you're working on, do you have like a website? Do you have any platforms?
Sure. I mean, I have a website at the state. If you go to cga.ct.gov, you can pull down the menu that says House members list, and I am a House member.
Join the fan club.
You can sign up for my newsletter.
Yeah.
And you can follow. There's a page on my website that shows all the bills that I'm working on that I've either co-sponsored or that I've introduced. So I do a lot of work with education and the safety of kids. Early childhood is a big,
important,
big thing for me, and so is, as I mentioned, human services, and we're working on everything from getting cell phones out of schools to
good luck, man. Yeah, that's tough.
to making sure that we have insurance for everyone in the state. So,
and that's especially, I love that you brought up the early childhood thing, because it's like the interventions that we make then, that makes the foundational change for the rest of a child's life. Like that's the time that it's most essential. So it's also, once again, good to know there are eyes on it, like people are working on that too.
That was my first passion when I got into the policy work, was all the early childhood work, and it still is, of course. But it is where we get the biggest bang for our buck. Investments in early childhood pay off so hugely. There's estimates of 7 to 10 times.
Wow.
The payoff if you invest early in our kids, and we got to get them into school ready to learn.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
equity in action. There we go. I took a social justice quiz. I'm ready. But it's been great having you on here.
Office.
Oh my God. Well, when I first was going to school, which I know you went to Southern, I was going to Southern too.
Yeah.
Go Owls. And I was like, I want to do political science, but then I'm so sensitive. If I get angry, I cry. And so I was like, I don't know if that would work out.
There are so many social workers and human services people. We're not all. I'm not, certainly, but a lot of, people think that we're like lawyers and wealthy lawyers and, political scientists, and really a lot of us are teachers and social workers, and because we are, we care deeply.
Yeah. Yeah. Teachers, certainly. Yeah. God bless them. But I mean, it's been great getting to chat with you, because I've known you for like almost 2 years now, but this is the first time I've been able to like really get into it one-on-one with you. Yeah. So I appreciate you driving up, making the long trek up to the middle of nowhere, Canaan. And I'll see you at the meeting tonight.
It's beautiful. I'll be there.
Sweet. Thank you.
Bye.